Hi, everyone. Val Evans here, and thanks for watching. We're back again, and joining me today is my good friend, renowned astrologer and forensic astrologer, and creator of the Facebook page Death and Astrology, one of my favorites, Pythia Serpentis. Hi, Pythia.
Hi, how are you doing today, Valerie?
Doing great. Well, we have a case today, and what we're going to do today is this is a version of the analysis of Aaliyah Ramirez's crime chart, and it's going to be geared towards non-astrologers. So it'll be pretty short, to the point, and what we'll do is get more into the in-depth analysis at another time following this one. So, and that analysis will include comparing a number of charts with Aaliyah. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. Pythia, you and I have the same theory, I think, on this one. We got to it in a little bit different fashions. Maybe yours is a little more sophisticated because of all of your midpoint, and I guess, what would you call them, midpoints? And and then with me and my degrees, and we sort of put our heads together and we come up with what we think happened to Aaliyah. And this is a young girl who, she was on CCTV, leaving her home in the morning, going to the bus stop, and then she just vanished. And that was back in April. Now, it's been a few months now. And what I wanted to do is just show this chart. Let me do a wider screen here. All right. And can you see that okay?
I can.
Okay. And what I'll do is just make a couple of notes here, just very general, and then get your take on some of this. Now, this is Aaliyah's crime chart for when she left her home. And I've been doing some studying on Rahu, or North Node. And North Node means a lot of things, good and bad. A general explanation of North Node is somebody's destiny in somebody's birth chart. But in a crime chart, it can mean different things. And one thing could mean deception. Another is these crime charts are very literal. So it can simply mean a word. And the words that I describe for for Rahu and Ketu, or North Node and South Node in Western astrology, is true and false. And true would be the South Node, which is on the other side, on in the 7th house, and false would be North Node. And put that together with Neptunian themes here with the degree 12, which is Pisces, that's imprisonment. So we see often in charts, at least I'm seeing, that the words false imprisonment tend to characterize certain crime charts. And as an example, if you look at the birth chart of Rose McGowan, it was very, very, I guess, forthright in her opinion. And she is a proponent of the cold truth. And in her birth chart, she has Saturn conjunct the South Node, cold truth. So that's just sort of some background on North Node and South Node and how I get to false imprisonment. And I think that characterizes this chart to some extent. So what I'm going to do is, and we can talk about that in the analysis, the bigger analysis in the next recording that we do. But now, and there's Aaliyah. I'm going to circle the Lord of the Ascendant, which is Mercury in Taurus. And then this is the perpetrator, which is the Lord of the 7th, and that's in Sagittarius. So can I get your thoughts when you first looked at this chart? What didn't look right to you?
I always check for fixed stars first, and I didn't really delineate them this time.
Mhm.
But what really stood out to me was that moon in the 6th house squaring Uranus and Saturn for starters. Obviously, I paid the most attention to Mercury because that's the ascendant ruler. So I, you know, I can't hold on just a second. Let me pull up my notes quick.
Yeah, it's sitting there in this incredible amount of energy. And as we've seen in these different houses, when you have all of those planets together, that's a huge clue. And it shows a lot of energy. Sometimes it shows a lot of people because the planets can represent people. Now, in the 12th, it certainly shows that this place it's hidden. There's an imprisoned quality to it because 12 means prison. So false imprisonment is just, it keeps being confirmed in this chart.
I would agree. Abduction and imprisonment, being restrained, and that Uranus to me, like I definitely think she'll try to make a break for it or has tried to make a break for it. Personally, that's kind of what I'm thinking will happen. I pulled up my notes and they're totally blank.
Oh no. Well,
Yeah.
we have a lot of midpoints with, say, for instance, Neptune and what was it?
Uranus.
Uranus? Okay.
Yeah, with the ascendant, we have Neptune and Uranus. So I can quickly break out a book called Rules for Planetary Pictures and kind of just read you what that means quick. Which I can't say I necessarily agree with. This book can be a little bit dramatic,
Okay.
and dark.
And by the way, I was able to pull up your notes, so just let me know if I can read anything.
Oh, please do, because I can't get them to come up at all.
Well, it was such detail, and well, you start with. Should I start with the first house cusp, or where would you like me to stop?
Yeah, let's start with the ascendant.
Okay. So the ascendant, you were saying, is there's so much detail you can get just from Gemini. And you said that it shows freedom and action or movement. So initially, I guess she had freedom to move around, coming and going as she pleases. And somebody had to have seen something, you said.
Yes.
And that's interesting because with Mercury ruling Gemini, Mercury, from what I've seen in charts, always shows witnesses. So I think that, yeah, because your Mercury is to eavesdrop or to see or to I don't know, to Geminis, some of them like to eavesdrop. So that's how I always remember, or they're very good at it. Spies have very strong Mercuries. So that brings us back to here, because perhaps there were witnesses. Somebody saw something, but they're not saying anything. Now,
yes, that's what I'm thinking. Gemini would be a very busy environment. People coming and going, taking their kids to school, going to work, driving around. Someone had to have seen something.
And maybe at first it didn't seem like anything criminal because somebody just stopped and offered her a ride, you mentioned, or something to that effect, where it didn't seem like she was at first being confronted, perhaps.
Right. It seemed like this person came at her with some kind of false kindness. Like, I don't know, for example, maybe she was running late and missed the bus and someone said, "Hey, I can help you out. Just hop in the car."
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. And now you also said that, let me see here. Go back to the notes. Now, are you able to see the notes on the screen when I put them up?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
They're
a mess.
Okay. No, but I didn't mean for it to, but it won't allow me to just read it on the side. So yeah, it's interesting because you're also looking at midpoints and how she might have been idealistic and thinking, oh yes, this person really might be able to help me.
Correct. Very trusting and
Hmm.
even gullible, you know, which I mean, what, she's like 14.
Hmm.
So it's like,
Exactly. She
I
doesn't
mean,
know anything
this
differently.
poor kid.
And now, as far as the moon and the Neptune midpoint, it's you said it's hit by the ascendant as well, contending with negative and emotionally draining people with addictive personalities. What do you think about that?
You know, my first instinct is maybe this person is a drug addict,
Hmm.
and that's what's going on. I mean, with all of this 12th house stuff going on, I think we're most definitely looking at imprisonment of some sort or confinement, you know, but you got to wonder why. Like, if it's, I mean, like, why keep her around, right? That's a
Hmm.
risk. And so I'm wondering if it might have to do with human trafficking
Hmm.
or something of that sort.
I would agree with with all of these planets in the 12th. We've seen so many times where somebody is just stuck and they are in a dark place. Now, what I see with Taurus, those are clues right there. It can mean singing, it can mean food, Taurus related things, money, things
Right.
that are of value. So suddenly, with Mercury conjunct Venus, that means young girls or a young girl of value. With Uranus, that can show the internet. So girls online. And then you have this
Oh, yeah.
powerful sun here, which is this is someone in power. And we've seen in the past that sun can mean a pimp. So when that's all together like that, that is not a good combination.
I would
Now,
agree.
yeah, it's very scary. And what I've seen with Mars, and sometimes when we look at these charts, we want to figure out, okay, so we understand what the situation is generally. We know what needs to be done, but is it going to be successful? And I like to look at Mars to see how the law enforcement officers are going to go about this crime. Are they going to be blocked, or are they going to be able to solve it? Are they going to be able to rescue this person or the victim? And sometimes the victim is able to escape or tries to escape or is rescued. And I think in this case, there is a very strong possibility that the FBI can rescue her. And why do I think it's the FBI? Because so many times I've seen with the 2 degree, that means the best. And when you have Mars at 2 degrees, that represents the best investigator, the best uh, enforcer of the law. And oftentimes that's the FBI or the top of the food chain. So I think what's happening is that the FBI knows this group. And why? Because of Uranus there. They're maybe potentially monitoring this ring. And that's another word that represents Mercury, is a ring. So I think that they can get to this pimp or this group and can be successful. Now a there's a kind of a challenging aspect here, and it goes straight to Venus, and it almost makes me think that there's going to be a female that tries to throw off the investigation, or there's a female in the mix that's
Yeah.
saying, no, no, you got it wrong. They're not here. And so it sort of throws the law enforcement a little bit. So if I were to be talking to the representative of, the law enforcement outlet or office or whatever, I would say, look, if there's a female involved, try to get past that block. I mean, I don't know how you would be able to tell exactly what they're going through, but there definitely is a female that's in the way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would, with that Venus there, and it's right between Uranus and Aaliyah's ruling planet Mercury. And a lot of the time in Harari, you'll look at these planets as players in a role or a play, you know what I mean? And so it's like we can assume that there is a man and a younger woman
Mm-hmm.
involved.
Yes.
And this moon is trying to highlight that because it's opposite everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the moon too, because sometimes when you see the moon, now that would be the co-ruler of Aaliyah, and it seems as if she is now. If it was an adult, we would say maybe they were going to work. So that's why it's a little confusing. But the sixth house can also mean routine, right? So that's how I look at that. Do you see the sixth in a different way or another way?
Mainly the way I'm looking at it is Venus is with Mercury, and Venus rules the sixth house. And then you have the moon in the sixth house. So it's almost saying Aaliyah is at this woman's house or with this woman,
Oh,
like the moon if it
yes.
represented Aaliyah would be saying, "Hey man, I'm over here at this with this
Ah,
girl."
okay. Very
Full
interesting. Okay.
house.
And it also shows possibly that they're putting the victim to work as well. Maybe she doesn't want to. So suddenly she's going from this very innocent girl to she's becoming a slave because of this Saturn here, and also the sixth house. So she's having to work, and there's money involved, and she's becoming an asset. Now that's what this crime chart shows me. And I also wanted to look at Black Moon Lilith here, and it's interesting how it is so close to Mercury and Venus. And I keep seeing this come up, and it works that in the charts that I've seen that Black Moon Lilith means a fetish. And when there is a young girl involved, BML will be close by to Mercury and Venus, which means young Mercury, girl Venus.
Yep.
So it really paints a picture here, I think. And I had mentioned earlier to you as well that in one of the charts we're going to look at later, we see Mars next to Saturn in the fourth house. And with Mars, that can mean hot. And in that case, the perpetrator put hot, I guess it was hot pepper, around the dead bodies that he had buried in his yard. So it would throw off the search dogs. So if you think about that and how red or Mars is red and hot, maybe that's a clue, and it's in the second house of food. And then it's also aspecting Taurus, which is food. So could that be maybe a restaurant, or a restaurant that serves spicy food, something to that effect? So I'm thinking maybe I should add that to the list of clues. But I think
Yeah.
also what throws me off too is the Mars in Cancer often means abuse. Would you agree?
Familial
Yes.
abuse, yeah, yeah,
So
or
that's,
abuse at the hands of a woman
yeah, and that exactly because it's ruled
or
by the
money
moon.
because it's in the second house.
Exactly. So I don't really know how to read that one, but maybe there is some kind of a motherly uh, figure, like a madam or something.
Yeah, and that Mars hits the midpoint of Pluto and the North Node, so that can be like some intense drama, fighting, power struggles, issues
Mhm.
being forced regardless of repercussions, being dictated to,
Yes.
coercion, manipulation within her associations, and it can actually be extremely cruel and ruthless.
Yeah, it's a tough placement. And then with Jupiter at the top here being, and that represents the perpetrator. Sometimes I see Jupiter as the hunter and or hunting the victim. And with that being in the 10th house, I feel like the perpetrator hunted her in public. And you see that placement, it's usually in the 10th or 11th house when there's like joggers. Uh,
Yeah, the
and
Molly Tibbetts case had
yes,
a Jupiter suspect, and he ended up being an immigrant from
mhm,
another country who was here illegally.
exactly. And I believe Jupiter was in the 11th house with that one, or was either 10th or 11th, something like that. So, um, exactly. And I also think that North Node here often represents someone that's foreign or that looks foreign. And with it being in the first house, it can represent what the victim looks like. But I think that there might be also, it could be a foreign perpetrator as well. Is that something that you're seeing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel strongly about that. I could be wrong, but
Hmm.
I do feel very strongly that
Okay.
it could be more than one person because Sagittarius is a dual-bodied sign
Hmm.
representing more than one person, but it does rule the perp. It does
Right.
rule immigrants or foreigners. So to
Okay.
me, I feel strongly about that.
Okay. And then with Jupiter, uh, aspecting that Mars, that can show a lot of men too, or a lot of male energy.
Yes,
And
it
maybe,
can.
yeah, maybe they're paying or something like that. So I don't like going into these details because it's just heartbreaking. It's such a lovely girl, and I'm hoping that we can find this girl. But I think what needs to happen is the FBI and the law enforcement, they need to know that just to keep going because I think they have the power here. And not a lot of times I say that in event charts, but here I really believe that the internet is going to help them. And what does that mean? Well, it could mean GPS, it could mean an investigation that has already been underway, that maybe that she happens to be in that group that they're looking at. I don't know.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. I definitely could see how technology will help this out.
mhm.
She was captured on video footage leaving for the bus stop at that moment,
Yes.
and and on the surveillance camera of a neighbor. So that
Mhm.
kind of plays along with this Uranus energy in the 12th house as well.
Exactly.
Although I suppose Neptune would rule film, right?
It rules film, but I've also seen Sagittarius rules like Hollywood.
Okay,
So and filmmaking. So I've seen Jupiter and Sagittarius, Jupiter ruled signs. So
okay.
yeah. And I think that we can probably come up with, if we were to analyze this and had a little more time, we could come up with suggestions for names and maybe what the perpetrator looked like. But
Yeah.
it just, I would look at the seventh house, right, and then
Yep.
also Jupiter.
Right. You would go ahead, grab William Lilly's book, Christian Astrology. He's got physical descriptions of each planet and the house and sign they're in, along with their aspects, and it could give us a lot of clues as to what we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, we should definitely look at that. And then Jupiter at the 27th degree, that's a car. So this could mean an SUV of some sort.
And it
And
would be big because Jupiter's big.
yes, yep,
So
it's
like a
big.
big truck, a big SUV.
And in the sign of Uranus, that I've seen is split colors, like two tones. So maybe a
Okay.
two color type of SUV. Maybe red is in there because of that trine with red or with Mars.
Mm.
So
Red
that's
and blue
interesting.
maybe or something because
Mhm.
I know Aquarius is like associated with that electric blue color.
Exactly. And next to Saturn, it's probably not very new. It might be an older model. So, well, did you want to add anything else? I think we've covered the chart from at least 20,000 feet, at least for general purposes.
I think so. And, I think it would be really fun if we could like maybe put a map together. Maybe
Yes.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think so. And it's weird when you want to do that and you really think that the direction that you're going to show everyone is where she is. It's like, what do you really want to tell the public? Because
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
like we'll try to be as general as we can, I guess, but I think we should at least look at the map, see if there are some Taurus related characteristics. Maybe there's woods, maybe there's a restaurant. We can look at that. So I
Or a
definitely would be
bank or
interested.
salon nearby.
Yes, because Venus is more of a salon, and then of course Taurus is a bank. Yeah, that is a very good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we will see you again for the follow up. And I think this has been educational. I think if anything, that if law enforcement were able to look at this, they would be encouraged just to keep going and to find her.
I hope so.
Mm.
I hope they don't give up, and I hope the case doesn't go cold, because the longer it takes, the colder my feet are getting and the more nervous
Mhm.
I'm getting about it.
Mhm. Exactly. All right. Well, we'll see you for the next analysis coming soon.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Valerie.
Thanks, Pythia.
Bye bye.
Bye.